Hey everybody, this is GGB co-host Peppers. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button down below. I'm excited to continue this series of college basketball upset of the week. I'm just gonna keep reminding you guys every day until you do it. Comment down below a dare, and guess what? I'll freaking do it. I'll nail it. I'll nail this thing. But I need a dare. I need a dare idea. I'm talking to Derek, my brother, who said he had a dare idea for me, but then never watches the videos. How is he gonna know when to comment the dare? I don't know. You should ask him. But I'm excited to get into another day of this. I got yesterday's upset right, but let's go right into this thing. In the SEC, we had some kind of important games happening. The very important game that most people are going to remember is that South Carolina played Alabama today, and actually played a very close game against them, covered the spread, which was a bet that I would have likely made considering the way South Carolina was playing. I expected Alabama to win this game, but I also expect South Carolina to keep it close, and that's what happened in this game. So South Carolina was unable to move past Kentucky, who lost today to Arkansas. And that was a game I was hoping would have gone an upset for Kentucky, but fortunately nothing really changed in the SEC. It really is very similar to when we left it yesterday. Now in the Big 12, some things did shift a bit. Texas Tech fell from 4 to the 6th place. Kansas is still sitting in that 5 spot. Actually, they were in the 4th spot. They moved down to the 5 spot. Texas was able to rise from 6th to 4th thanks to beating Kansas State, although not by a large margin like most people would expect. And Kansas and Texas Tech fell to West Virginia, who is now in second place in the Big 12. Again, as I was saying for Oklahoma, you would have rathered a Texas Tech victory. So West Virginia beating Texas Tech really kind of screwed you over, but it definitely did help Texas. So Texas fans should be thanking West Virginia a whole lot right now. Now, on the other side of things, we have Kansas State and Iowa State. Both played very reasonably good games today, especially for Kansas State. To hold it to only a 3-point loss against Texas is very impressive for Kansas State, who's normally not very impressive. Iowa State, on the other hand, only had a 3-point loss to TCU. So, again, these teams are getting better, but still not very good. Iowa State is a way more deadly team, in my opinion, than Kansas State. Because Kansas State, that was the one close game they've had. Iowa State, they're in almost every Big 12 game they play. They just haven't been able to pull off the victory in any of them. They just get some closing, get to close out a basketball game, and then we'll be seeing some. I think that Iowa State could go on a decent-sized run and win one or two games. Big East, on the other hand, again, nothing huge shifted except for Butler was able to move. Butler ended St. John's win streak today in overtime, and Butler was able to move from 3rd to last, which is 9th. Right, they were able to move from 9th to 7th. So a decent jump upward, was able to pass teams like Providence and Marquette. Now Marquette has a chance to pass Butler with a win today. Providence does as well with a win today over UConn. So this could be a very temporary thing for St. John's, but if you're a St. John's fan, we'll go over what it was a big jump for. It was a big jump for Butler. But it might be temporary. And nothing else really changed in the Big East. Now let's go over the college basketball games today. In the ACC, we have at 6 o'clock, number 9, Virginia traveling to Georgia Tech. So let's go over what possibilities happen with a win or a loss. Obviously, if you're a Florida State or Virginia Tech fan, and you're like, go Georgia Tech, because you really want to get first place in the ACC. And that's not going to happen unless Virginia starts to lose some basketball games. So, again, kind of got to hope for stuff like this. On the other hand, Georgia Tech's not moving up with a win. Really, the only reason to win this game is for Georgia Tech is not to fall. And it would be a not great fall for them to fall. Again, you do not want to lose this game because it would likely end in a free fall. Because right now, Georgia Tech is in good position in 6th place. With a win, they stay in 6th place. But with a loss, they move to 5-5, which would automatically drop them behind Clemson for obvious reasons, because Clemson's at 6-5. Now you have Syracuse and Pitt, who are both 5-5. But a 9-7 record is worse than Syracuse's 11-6 record, and it's worse than Pitt's 9-6 record. So you fall 3 spots. So Syracuse is currently sitting in 6th, so you fall to 9th place. That's not great. That's not ideal for Georgia Tech. So this is a huge game for Georgia Tech. With a win, I guess I said it before, they're not moving. And with a loss for Virginia, again, they're not moving. But with a win, they're definitely not moving. And Florida State really needs to get it a little bit closer. Now let's just hop over to the American and Houston. And, Houston this week is playing USF. And now USF is actually a decent basketball team. It's not really getting as much credibility as I think they deserve. They're going to be a tough team to beat. Now, if you're a USF fan, you're very excited for this game. Because if you win, you move up a spot. I mean, there are reasons to be excited for this game. You can move past Tulsa and get to 5th place in the American. That's special. We're normally not talking about South Florida in the 5th place when we have teams like Cincinnati's good at basketball. Tulsa's good at basketball. Teams like this are good at basketball. We're normally not talking about South Florida in 5th place in the American. And I'm glad that we're finally talking about it because they really do deserve this credit. They've been able to put together a reasonable win streak. So with a win, again, I'll say it again, with a win, South Florida can move into 5th place in the American. Now with a loss, they're not moving anywhere. They go to the same record as Cincinnati, which, I mean, they just straight up have an overall better record than Cincinnati, which means they're not going to move. So this game can mean a little bit for South Florida with a win, but it's not going to hurt you too bad with a loss. Now, on the other hand, if you're Houston, a win or loss isn't going to affect you that much in the long run, and nothing's going to knock you down. But ranking-wise, really Houston's in the end game here. The goal is to get as high a seed as possible in the March Madness tournament right now. Houston's pretty much a lock to make the tournament at this point. So I think if you're Houston, you got to be hoping and praying that you keep winning these games. You keep winning these games, keep cruising along through the American Conference. Now, in the Big Ten, we have 2 reasonable-sized games today. At 6:30, we have number 25 Rutgers traveling to number 15 Iowa, with Iowa being favored by 6.5 points on Big Ten Network. And at 8:30, we have number 21 Wisconsin traveling to Nebraska. Now, there are some pretty important reasons why I mention these games, and the big implications are in Big Ten play. But pretty much these teams are going to make the tournament regardless. So I'm excited to see them actually play. But I was on a free fall. They have not been playing good basketball recently. They just haven't been. By the way, if you're wondering, this is really what happened in the Big Ten yesterday. Penn State lost to Michigan State by 2 points, which means Michigan State passed Penn State. Now Penn State's in that 11 slot. Michigan State's in that 10 slot. So that was not a great game for Penn State. Now, on the other hand, if you are Rutgers, you can pass Iowa with a win. Now, with a loss, you fall to 7-7. You're not going to lose that 7 ranking, but it does put Indiana literally right behind you. But Rutgers, this is a huge game for Rutgers. With a win, you can move up to 6th place in the Big Ten, which is very impressive. You really want to be in that top half of the Big Ten. On top of the half of the Big Ten, you're pretty much guaranteed to make it in. Now, there are some fringe teams down low, like Indiana, Minnesota, Michigan State. I'll even consider Penn State a fringe team, although I think they're very much on the fringe. They have to start winning some of these close basketball games. They really want to be considered a top team to make it to the March Madness. And they have to have a good Big Ten tournament, but I think they can make it in without winning the entire Big Ten tournament. But teams like Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska really can't. So that's what I think. I think Rutgers really needs this win over Iowa. Now, with a win, Iowa can move up to 1 spot. They can pass Purdue with a win because you get 8-5 in conference record. You pass them purely on record. You have a 14-6 record instead of Purdue's 13-7. Now, on the other hand, technically speaking, Iowa can move into 4th place in the Big Ten. Now, but that would take a pretty sizable upset today. Wisconsin plays Nebraska. Nebraska's 0-7 in conference and really hasn't shown that much promise in the Big Ten. Really looking like everyone's doormat, right? So, yeah, this should be an easy win for Wisconsin. But if you're an Iowa fan, you're hoping and praying that Wisconsin loses, because then if you win, you move up good amount of spots. So, again, some stuff can happen today. But here's the main thing. Rutgers can move up with a win, obviously. And if you are a Wisconsin or Purdue fan, you're rooting for Rutgers today to give you a little bit of room. That's really it. Nebraska's not moving up or down with a win or a loss anyways, and they're pretty much locked in that 14 spot, so not going to really affect them that much there. Now, on the other side of things, we have some SEC basketball. So we have two pretty important games. At 7 o'clock, we have Georgia traveling to number 16, Tennessee. And I was saying before, two of the hottest teams, in my opinion, in the SEC right now are Georgia and Ole Miss, who both of them played today, ranked teams. They're playing number 16, Tennessee. And Tennessee favored by 12.5 points in this game. I believe that's too many points the way Georgia's been playing. Now, on the other hand, Ole Miss is favored by 1.5 points, which I think they're very hot. I think they can win this basketball game, but I think that's too many points to put on them. But let's go over what happens with a win and a loss for each team. So, let's say Missouri loses this basketball game, right? They fall to 6-4 in conference. Now, obviously, if you're an Arkansas fan, you're thrilled, right? You move to second place in the SEC. You might be ranked next week. 6-4, you would fall to 6-4 in conference, 13-4 overall. Now, let's say Tennessee beats Georgia, which might happen. So Tennessee would then move to third place and you to fourth place. That's really the worst that Missouri can do today is fall to fourth place, but that is falling 2 spots, and that's not ideal if you're Missouri. Now, on the other hand, with a win, with a Tennessee loss, you'd only fall. The best thing you can do if you lose is fall to third place. The worst thing you can do if you lose is fall to fourth. So it's not horrible for Missouri, but it's also not ideal if you want to keep yourselves alive for that SEC top seed. Now, other hand, if Ole Miss is able to pick up this victory, they move to 6-6 in conference and can pass Georgia if Georgia loses. Now, remember, Georgia holds their fate in their hands if they just win this basketball game. If they beat Tennessee, then they'll just stay where they are right now, which is in 7th place. Now, that's top half of the SEC. That's what Georgia really wants. Now, with a loss, you fall to 5-7 and 12-7 in conference, 12-7 overall record. But you would fall from where you are at 7 down past Ole Miss and Mississippi State down to a 5-7 record. Drop 2 spots to the 9th spot with a loss. Same thing can be said, but now, if Georgia loses and Ole Miss loses, Mississippi State. Now, Mississippi State, you're a fan of, weirdly enough, Missouri and Tennessee today, so you can rise up to the 7th spot without really playing anyone today. I don't believe they play anyone today. No. Well, actually, they do play LSU today. So, weirdly enough, I'm sorry, I forgot LSU does play. So, technically, Missouri can fall farther. So, I was wrong about that. With an LSU win today over Mississippi State, they can rise up to 7-4 normal record. So, technically speaking, we could be talking, Missouri could fall all the way down to 5th place. With Florida actually would fall 1 spot if that were to happen. So, Florida, you're hoping that LSU does not beat Mississippi State today. That's not ideal for you. Basically, that's what's going to happen in the SEC. I'd bet money that we just see nothing really change that much in the SEC. Now, there's one last basketball game I really need to touch on. 8 o'clock, Marquette travels to number 5, Villanova. Villanova is favored by 10.5, which means that it's likely going to be a Villanova win. But with a loss, we could end up seeing Creighton take over at the top spot in the conference with their 11-4 in conference record. It's hard to compare Big East because they've played such... We have teams that played 15 games. We have teams that have played 6. So, there's a huge difference in the amount of games that teams have played in the Big East, so it's not easy to compare teams like that, the other conferences. But if Marquette wins today, as long you're hoping for a Providence loss. If Providence loses today against UConn, then Marquette can conceivably rise to 6-8 and pass both Providence and Butler with a 10-10 overall record. That's what you want if you're Marquette. I don't see quite Marquette catching up to a team like St. John's, but you never know. But passing Butler and Providence would be ideal for Marquette. On the other hand, beating Villanova is a tough order. Falling today to Villanova basically locks up where they are. So it's not ideal, but they're not falling. Villanova's not putting them in any pressure or situation where they if they lost, they're going to be in a bad situation and Georgetown might pass them. But if you're a Butler fan, obviously if UConn and Villanova both don't blow it against Providence or Marquette, you're sitting pretty right there. You have a 1-game lead on teams like the Friars and the Golden Eagles. So you have a decent sized advantage. That's obviously, if you're a Butler fan, you're a UConn and Villanova fan today. If you're a Marquette fan, obviously you're a UConn and yourself fan. And if you're a Providence fan, you're just a Villanova fan and a Providence fan today. But who does GGP think is going to pull off the upset this week? And I'm going to say, personally, I think it's Rutgers. I think Rutgers has the best shot to pull off the upset. Picking against Iowa has not steered me wrong so far. Iowa's in a slump. And normally, like, if I'm picking against Iowa, I'll pick Iowa if it's against a good basketball team. A bad basketball team. But Rutgers is too hot right now to really bet against. They're too good of a basketball team right now. They have a 4-game win streak with Iowa having a 2-game losing streak. And they've just been very good this year. And I don't think I can really bet against Rutgers right now, especially since Rutgers played Iowa so close when Iowa was really good. Now Rutgers is really good, really hot, and Iowa is really cold. So I'm going to bet on Rutgers. I bet Luka Garza has a good game, but I'm going to go with Rutgers. Hey everybody, this is GGB saying adios amigos, and go Scarlet Knights.